Right, hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's about as fun as a root canal on a roller coaster during a hurricane. The 10 fastest collapsing countries of 2024. The world's a complicated place, right? Wars, famines, economic meltdowns, ecological disasters. Basically the whole apocalypse bingo card is in play. Sadly, some countries are bearing the brunt of it more than others. We're talking about places facing challenges so severe, so deeply ingrained, that their very existence is being called into question. But hey, you clicked on the video, so you must enjoy a bit of existential dread with your morning coffee. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more insightful content. First up, we have Venezuela, a country that's basically become synonymous with the phrase "it can always get worse." Remember when you were a kid and you'd try to make a tower out of cards, but it would always end up a wobbly mess? That's Venezuela's economy in a nutshell. Hyperinflation, food shortages, a currency worth less than a used napkin. It's like someone took a whole economy textbook, set it on fire, and then used the ashes to make a currency. And the political situation? Don't even get me started. It's a tangled web of corruption, authoritarianism, and more plot twists than a season finale of Game of Thrones. Imagine a government so incompetent that it makes your local DMV look like a well-oiled machine. That's Venezuela. People are fleeing the country in droves, risking their lives on dangerous journeys just for a shot at a better life. It's a heartbreaking situation. And frankly, it's a damning indictment of the people in power who have driven this once prosperous nation into the ground. But hey, at least they've got oil, right? Oh wait, did I say oil? I meant a rapidly dwindling supply of oil that's controlled by a government that's more interested in lining its own pockets than helping its people. Just know this, the situation is dire, and it's only getting worse. Next up we have Syria, a country that's been through the ringer and back again. For over a decade, Syria has been ravaged by a brutal civil war that's claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people and displaced millions more. Imagine a country where going to the grocery store could get you killed, where hospitals are bombed with impunity, and where children grow up never knowing what peace is like. The conflict has created a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions, with millions of people in desperate need of food, water, shelter, and medical care. And as if the war wasn't bad enough, Syria is also facing a severe economic crisis. The Syrian pound has plummeted in value, inflation is rampant, and basic goods are in short supply. The international community has largely failed to address the crisis in Syria, with various powers more interested in pursuing their own geopolitical goals than in finding a peaceful solution. The result is a humanitarian catastrophe that shows no signs of abating. Yemen, the land of ancient history, stunning landscapes and, oh right, a horrific humanitarian crisis that's been dubbed the world's worst by the United Nations. Yemen is in the midst of a civil war that's been raging since 2014, pitting the Yemeni government against Houthi rebels. But this isn't just any civil war, it's a proxy war with regional powers like Saudi Arabia and Iran backing opposing sides. The result? A humanitarian catastrophe of epic proportions. Millions of Yemenis are on the brink of starvation, with the UN estimating that a child dies every 10 minutes from preventable causes. And as if starvation wasn't bad enough, Yemen is also being bombed to smithereens by a Saudi-led coalition that seems to have a rather liberal interpretation of the term collateral damage. Hospitals, schools, markets, you name it, they've bombed it. Let that sink in for a moment. Chapter 4: Afghanistan. From one crisis to another, with barely a pause for breath. Afghanistan, a country that's been ravaged by war and instability for decades, is once again facing a bleak future. After the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces in 2021 and the Taliban's swift takeover, Afghanistan has plunged into a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions. The economy, already fragile, has collapsed, with millions facing hunger and poverty. The healthcare system is on the brink of collapse, with hospitals struggling to function due to a lack of funding and supplies. The international community has pledged billions of dollars in aid, but getting that aid into the country and, more importantly, to the people who need it most is proving to be a Herculean task. The situation in Afghanistan is a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and the long-lasting consequences of failed interventions. Chapter 5: Haiti. When it rains, it pours. Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, has been plagued by a seemingly endless cycle of disasters, both natural and man-made. From devastating earthquakes to political instability, Haiti just can't seem to catch a break. The assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021 plunged the country into further chaos, with gangs vying for control and a political vacuum that's yet to be filled. The Haitian National Police, outgunned and outmanned, are struggling to maintain order, leaving much of the country lawless and dangerous. Adding to the woes, Haiti is grappling with a cholera outbreak, a disease that thrives in conditions of poverty and inadequate sanitation. With limited access to clean water and healthcare, thousands have been infected, and the death toll continues to rise. The international community has pledged aid, but as we've seen in other crises, getting that aid to those in need is a major challenge. Haiti is a country in crisis, and its people deserve better. Chapter 6. South Sudan, the Lost Generation. South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, gained independence from Sudan in 2011, but its birth was marred by violence and instability. A civil war erupted in 2013, plunging the country into chaos and humanitarian crisis. While a peace agreement was signed in 2018, the situation remains fragile, with sporadic violence and a humanitarian crisis that shows no signs of abating. Millions have been displaced from their homes and hunger is widespread. But perhaps the most devastating consequence of South Sudan's ongoing crisis is the impact on its children. With the education system in shambles, an entire generation is growing up without access to education. This lost generation, deprived of education and opportunities, faces a bleak future. Somalia, a country located in the Horn of Africa, has been synonymous with chaos and instability for decades. It's a nation where the government's writ barely extends beyond the capital, Mogadishu, and where Al-Shabaab, a terrorist group linked to Al-Qaeda, controls vast swaths of territory. Somalia is also grappling with a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions, driven by conflict, drought, and a lack of basic services. Millions are food insecure, and the healthcare system is virtually non-existent in many areas. But perhaps the most insidious problem plaguing Somalia is corruption. It's so pervasive, so deeply ingrained in every level of society, that it's practically become a national sport. From government officials siphoning off aid money to pirates demanding ransoms for hijacked ships, corruption is bleeding Somalia dry. Chapter 8. Myanmar, also known as Burma, was once seen as a beacon of hope for democracy in Southeast Asia. After decades of military rule, the country appeared to be on the path to democratic transition. But those hopes were dashed in 2021 when the military staged a coup, overthrowing the democratically elected government and plunging the country into chaos. Since the coup, Myanmar has been in turmoil. The military junta has responded to pro-democracy protests with brutal force, killing hundreds and arresting thousands more. The economy is in free fall, with businesses shuttered, tourism dried up, and sanctions imposed by the international community. The humanitarian situation is dire, with millions facing food insecurity and displacement. Chapter 9. Zimbabwe, once known as the breadbasket of Africa, is now a cautionary tale of economic mismanagement and political repression. Under the rule of Robert Mugabe, who led the country from 1980 to 2017, Zimbabwe experienced hyperinflation, economic collapse, and widespread human rights abuses. While Mugabe is gone, his successor, Emmerson Mnangagwa, has continued many of his predecessor's policies, leading to further economic decline and political instability. Zimbabwe is facing a multitude of challenges, including hyperinflation, food and water shortages, a crumbling healthcare system, and high unemployment. Chapter 10. North Korea, the world's most isolated and secretive state, continues to defy international norms and pose a threat to regional stability. Under the rule of Kim Jong-un, North Korea has maintained its iron grip on power, suppressing dissent and pursuing its nuclear ambitions with reckless abandon. The country's nuclear and missile tests have drawn international condemnation and sanctions, but the Kim regime has shown no willingness to compromise. While North Korea claims to be a socialist paradise, the reality is far different. The vast majority of the population lives in poverty, with limited access to food, healthcare, and basic freedoms. So, there you have it, a whirlwind tour of some of the most troubled corners of our planet. Look, I know this wasn't exactly a laugh riot, it's heavy stuff, but it's important to be aware of what's happening in the world, even when it's grim. These countries, and the people who live in them, deserve our attention, our empathy, and our support. Stay safe out there, everyone.